I was suffering with heat exhaustion. I started to hallucinate as well. It got to a point where I could almost feel my insides drying up. We're talking now, I've been in the Gobi Desert at this point for about 3 weeks.
Hey guys, welcome back to When It Hits the Fan, the podcast that delves into what really happens when things go wrong on the road. Brought to you by Battleface, the tough face of travel insurance. We're super excited to bring you today's guest. He's an adventurer and extreme athlete who, at the age of 30, already has 3 world first records under his belt. Ash Dykes first caught the public's attention when he walked 1,500 miles solo and unsupported across Mongolia in 2014. He followed it up 2 years later with a 1,600-mile trek across Madagascar via its 8 highest peaks. And in 2018, he embarked on another world first record attempt, walking the 4,000-mile length of the Yangtze River in China. Unsurprisingly, Ash has had plenty of hairy moments on the road, including encountering bandits, contracting the deadliest form of malaria, sandstorms, snow blizzards, and a heap of other formidable obstacles. Guys, we're going to be releasing new podcast episodes regularly, so hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of those. And of course, we'd love a review on whatever platform you're using to listen to or watch this podcast. Anyway, that's enough from me. Let's hear from the main man himself. Ash, thanks so much for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for reaching out and making it happen.
Oh, absolutely. I guess the past 11 months of kind of coming in and out of lockdown must have been quite tricky for someone as active as you.
Yeah, it's been a little frustrating, but it's one of those, it is what it is. I always say you've got to adapt. And for me personally, I've been isolated in much worse environments. So I guess I could be thankful for being isolated in a good place with shelter over my head, warm, dry food in my belly. So, but yeah, I've just been trying to make the most of it and do what I can whilst I can, because every red light does turn green and it will be all go again. I hope. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're back in North Wales at the moment, are you?
Yeah, back in North Wales. Yeah. So I arrived here about a week ago almost now. So I'm just doing my 10-day isolation, and then I can get back out, into the mountains, because it's not a bad place where I live, next to the sea, the mountains, the lakes and whatnot. And so, yeah, get back
Perfect
out there.
Opportunity to train again.
Exactly. Yeah, back to the grind.
But I as I understand it, then your incident of kind of when it hit the fan was a very different terrain than North Wales. Do you want to tell us where this took place?
Yeah, so this took place on my sort of world first crossing across Mongolia, and it happened in the Gobi Desert, and it was an incident which was almost fatal. Yeah, but luckily, I lived to tell the tale, thankfully, but just about.
Okay, what happened then? And I mean, this was when you were quite young, 23, 24, is that right?
Yeah, I was 23. Yeah, so I'd done all of my sort of previous adventures for a number of years, cycling Vietnam, Cambodia, learning how to survive in the jungle with the Burmese hill tribe, trekking the Himalayas, and then settling down in Thailand for 2 years as a Muay Thai fighter and scuba instructor. And then it was after this 2 year that I just started to miss adventure and wanted to take on something much bigger than I'd ever done before. And that was to become the first person to walk solo and unsupported across Mongolia. So it was 3 weeks over the Altai Mountains. It was 5 weeks across the Gobi Desert and 3 weeks through the Mongolian steppe, completely solo, completely unsupported, low budget, all of my previous adventures on a shoestring budget. So there was no sort of good evacuation plan. All of my provisions I had to carry on a trailer, which weighed 18 stone or 120 kilograms. So it was strapped like a 4-point harness, and I had to pull that through. Mm-hmm. And again, yeah, it was a scary expedition that I did hold a lot of fear to. It had been attempted before by a desert explorer, Navy soldier, 3 times before he was evacuated. that put further doubts into my mind, but I flew back to Wales. I trained up as best as I could mentally and physically, and set out on the journey, which took 78 days in total. But there is one specific incident where I did almost lose my life. And so I think I'll go into detail on that.
Sure.
So with that, so as I mentioned, 18 stone trailer and pulling that, I'd already made it over the Altai Mountains, which was about minus 15 degrees Celsius. You know, there were wolves. It was very tricky terrain. And then I eventually dropped down into the Gobi Desert. I had so far surviving 4 weeks, you know, but after the Altai Mountains, I was a lot skinnier. I was a lot weaker. I think at this stage, I had already lost 10 kilograms, and I was trekking further down south and deeper into the Gobi Desert, following sort of tracks, if you like. And it was all map work, compass and map. And as I'm going, I do feel myself getting dehydrated, you know, because I did have to ration my water to a certain degree. So I had a 20-litre water container on my trailer. And so I'd have to top that up at each confirmed water well or community where they had water. And that was the big issue, is if the well has water. And the weeks went by in the Gobi Desert, and I started to become a little bit more delirious, dehydrated. I was suffering a little bit with heat exhaustion, but I just kept going. I was covering about 14 to 16 hours a day. And at this specific incident, I had now gone over 8 days without seeing a single human. I came across a well that was dry. And this was the real sticking point. It was this dry well that now I had to push on to the next confirmed water source, which had a community, but we're talking it's a good while away. And I now only have a short amount of water remaining, kind of the last sort of dribbles of water, if you like, and I'm already dehydrated. But there's no other option. I had to keep pushing on. I was suffering with heat exhaustion. I started to hallucinate as well. It got to a point where I could almost feel my insides drying up. We're talking now, I'd been in the Gobi Desert at this point for about 3 weeks, alone in the Gobi Desert, pulling the trailer. It was plus 40 degrees Celsius. The terrain was a mix of gravel and soft sand. So whereby the thin wheels that I had on my trailer would sink into the soft sand, making it feel like 500 kilograms. I would often have to lean completely forward with my walking poles stretched and using my legs and arms to pull the trailer through. And there was no breeze, there was no shelter, no shade. In fact, the only bit of shelter that I could get was underneath my trailer. So I remember lying on the desert floor, which is pretty hot during the day, just to hide from the sun. You know, I'd be able to fit my upper body under the trailer, but my legs would be sticking out, and it felt like they were just melting. And I remember looking at the water, and, you know, the hardest thing was when I started to drink, I would have to remember to pull it away from my mouth because I needed to make this water last.
I guess with every instinct in your body just saying more, you know, you really want to just chug it as much as possible.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it was hot water, you know, at this point it was hot water, but it didn't matter, you know, it's liquid. I need to get that in me. And it was probably at this point, you know, as I've described what I'm going through, in complete agony, where I was under my trailer, and I realized that if I don't keep getting up and pushing on, bearing in mind sometimes I could hide under my trailer for a good hour at a time at least, and the day would go by, and you know, at the end of the day I've not made much progress. And I told myself, if I don't keep getting up and pushing on, I'm going to die out here in the Gobi Desert. Like I said, you know, this was a really low budget expedition. My only pickup I had now already missed. If it would by text only on a satellite phone, and that would be a text to my logistics manager in the capital, and I would need to allow at least 3 to 4 days for him to get to me, and that's if he found me in time. That's 3-4 days is good type of thing. But if I had like the helicopter evacuation, that would have been fine, but that wasn't an option. And so at this point, 3 to 4 days for my agent to get to me, and then another day or 2 days for him to get me out of that location to the water source. And I genuinely didn't believe I could survive 5 to 6 days. Or what the only option that I had now, or if I keep getting up and pushing on, I've got 4 days. I know that going with the pace that I'm currently going, with the rest that I'm currently taking, it will take 4 days to get to that next water source, which is confirmed. There's no risk in that. There's a community there, and I know it has water, unlike the well that was dry.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I think I could survive 6 days.
Oh, you're back. The sound went, but you're back.
Oh, yeah. So I don't believe I could have lasted 6 days. So I decided, all the pain and the agony that I'm going through. And I was thinking a lot at that time. I was thinking about family. I was thinking, have I messed up here? But I decided to ignore that, stop feeling sorry. It is what it is. I've put myself in this scenario, focus on not what could go wrong, but now what I could do to make it right. And so actually breaking my goals down saved my life. I actually decided that if I'm going to do this, I need to focus on walking 100 meters, because that's all as I could manage. So I'd strap up the 4-point harness, I'd lean completely forward, pull the trailer 100 meters, maybe 200 meters if I was lucky. And I would allow myself no more than 5 minutes resting underneath my trailer. And so by doing that 100 meters, 5 minutes, 100 meters, 5 minutes, for the next 4 agonizing, brutal days,
Wow.
I did just about make it to that community, in which I was in such a bad way. I did collapse. My urine was pretty much black. My organs just felt like they weren't really functioning. And it took me a good 8 days to recover before I could even think about pushing on again. Very lucky to have made that community.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what you say about, going through this kind of emotional turmoil, as well as obviously the kind of physical issues, but then coming to the conclusion that it's not going to help me to think about these things, kind of worrying about people back home, worrying about what have I got myself into. None of this is going to get me out of the situation. I just need to break it down into kind of incremental steps that I can take to, to get out of it. And it's kind of, you must learn an incredible amount about yourself, about expeditions, about kind of, just generally how to overcome challenges when you're put in that, particularly deadly situation.
Yeah, 100%. After Mongolia, that's when I realized that not only for myself, but people in general are so more capable than they give themselves credit for. The amount of fear and doubt that I had with Mongolia, even this Navy soldier, he did write to me. I asked him for a list of dangers, things that I should look out for. And he got back saying, you need to watch out for the drunken nomadic drifters, the snow blizzards, the sandstorms, the dry wells, the stagnant water, the wolves, and the list went on and on and on. And I remember at the end of that email, because this is a guy who had attempted it 3 times, he said, remember, incredible is the ability to continue no matter what. And I never knew what he meant by that, but I remember just that sentence alone intimidated the fuck out of me. I was like, what does he mean by that? And then when I did complete it, he was a decent guy. He said, well done, you proved it's possible. I like to think I was the angel sat on your shoulder. And I do remember, thinking of that quote when I was under my trailer. And because I was hallucinating and I was in such a bad way, I almost personified incredible as a thing that because no one and nothing's incredible, but if it was a thing, what would it do? And it was almost like I needed a big brother there with me, or a role model. And I kind of visualized this figure, and it was breaking its goals down. It was getting up from out of the trailer before me. It was walking further than me. It would rest, and then I would rest, but then it kept getting on. I tried keeping up, but I couldn't keep up. It was getting further and further away. But enough for me to get to that community, because as I said, my mind was mush. I was in a really, really bad place. And so it was almost that saying that had scared me for all of that time came into play, and I was able to utilize it to my benefit. And yeah, at the end of it, all of the doubt, all of the fear that I had, I realized that it's just sort of what your body does, isn't it? It's kind of like with a bungee. Once you leave that platform, you're fine. It's just taking that jump. And that's what it was with Mongolia. And I finished realizing that, wow, we are far more capable than we think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, true mind over matter stuff, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's next for you then, Ash? I mean, I imagine you probably have a few projects that you're kind of currently planning towards, or some things that you'd like to do in the future. Is there anything concrete yet?
Yes, there is something concrete, which is very exciting. I can't say just yet, but it is looking to take place this year. And it's been a work in progress, and yeah, it's exciting to get it where it is, where we can now, start moving forward with it and make it happen. And so, yeah, as you say, I'm still young in this industry, and there is still plenty more. I think we're only just getting warmed up here, so stay tuned for sure.
Fantastic. Well, if people do want to stay tuned, they want to find out more about you, where should they do that? Which social media are you most active on? And yeah, where should they go?
Yeah, I'd say Instagram is the most sort of engaging and interactive social media, and that's just Ash_Dykes. But yeah, there is the Facebook, the YouTube, the Twitter, etc. Yeah.
It's fantastic. Well, of course, people will, I'm sure, go to those various platforms to find out about your next big project. And if they haven't looked at the previous 3 record-breaking projects, they'll go there to find out about those as well. But thanks so much for joining us this afternoon, Ash, and enjoy the late winter sun in North Wales, as I will enjoy it in Birmingham.
Yeah, I'll have to get out in my back garden one night.
Lovely.
Yeah,
Cheers.
no, appreciate it. Thanks for calling, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. See you now.
Well, that's about as much as we've got time for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed listening to Ash. We have got some incredible guests coming up in the next few weeks and months. So if you want to find out when we've got a new episode coming out, just, hit that subscribe button or follow us on social media. Obviously, our links are in the description of the video below. But until then, bye-bye.